Hey, Disney cruisers, and welcome back to the DCL community where we are here to help you plan, prepare for, and get excited for your Disney cruise. You guys know me. I'm Rebecca, your host and admin of the DCL community. And today we are giving a little bit of love and shedding some light on some other ways to travel with Disney because you might not know it's not just about Disney Cruise Line. I know that's shocking. I know that's shocking for me to say. I know, but I am so excited to be joined by Disney travel specialist and travel advisor to the stars, Karen Shelton. Karen, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as people are coming in?
Absolutely. Thanks, Rebecca. It's so good to be with you again. I'm Karen. I am the owner of My Path Unwinding Travel. We are celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. We are an authorized Disney vacation planner agency. I love to say that Disney is the heart of our team. And we are the hugest fans of Disney Cruise Line. We just love it. But we love other ways of exploring the magic in the real world. And so you've heard us talk about Adventures by Disney a lot. Um, but a lot of people don't realize that there are other new ways to travel, sort of in the Disney bubble, that are a little different. And the partnership with National Geographic that Disney has is something that we're going to talk about today.
Yes, I know. I am so excited to learn more. When I found out that there are cruise ships, very large ships that have National Geographic branding and knowing, I mean, I'm a total nerd, so I love watching all the Nat Geo specials. Of course, they just did the partnership with the behind the scenes with the treasure, and I mean,
Yeah.
they just do such good work. So I have a sneaking suspicion that these are going to be nothing short but of amazing. But if you are ready to plan your vacation, whether you're interested in Adventures by Disney and Nat Geo, Disney Cruise Line, maybe something totally custom, reach out to Karen. Her and her team are here to help, and their planning services are free for you to utilize. So let your brain run wild with creativity with all of the places that you can go. And as we're going through, please let us know about any questions, but let's go ahead and dive on in.
Okay, awesome. So I started out with Adventures by Disney. Some of your viewers and group members may have heard that recently Adventures by Disney announced their 2026 itineraries. And but so many people don't know about Adventures by Disney. So this is always a good place to start because this is kind of where Disney Cruise Line and Disney Destinations said, you know what, we want to take people to more places and immerse them deeper in the destination than you can really do on a Disney cruise. So, Adventures by Disney has family focused vacations around the globe, almost every continent, no longer in Antarctica. So, but we'll get to that. We'll get back to Antarctica in a minute. But these are just really, it's like I said, the magic in the real world. You are they're family friendly curated itineraries, but they also have itineraries that are departure dates just for those 18 and up. So they have these adult only adventures. It's all about storytelling, telling the stories of the destination, telling stories about the history, the culture, the food, the music, all of that. And Adventures by Disney is really remarkable in that you travel with two adventure guides. And so that just makes it super for families. So we love Adventures by Disney. The DCL community YouTube page has a bunch of videos that we've done about Adventures by Disney and comparing it to some other options. I think we've talked about well, I'm not sure if we talked about Adventures by Disney versus Talk Together, Rebecca. Did we do that ever?
I don't think we did that one. We talked about river cruises. But
Right.
yes, I
Oh,
know
that's what
there.
it was. We did land versus river for
Yes.
Adventures by Disney. And so, yeah, Adventures by Disney also has family friendly river cruising and some adult only departures. So, like I said, you can go to so many destinations with Adventures by Disney. And there's definitely the Disney tie in. There's no characters on board with you, but there's special Disney touches. People on board will understand your references to the Disney parks and the Disney movies and the Disney characters. So this is fantastic for your traditional Disney fan if you want the comfort of traveling with Disney. But Adventures by Disney doesn't go everywhere or doesn't have itineraries throughout the year in some cases for places that you might want to go. And I don't know how many years ago it was now that Disney bought, what did they buy? They bought like
Everything.
everything. But part of what they bought when they bought everything and they got like a whole bunch of assets is they got National Geographic. And they not only got the National Geographic magazine and the television station, but they got National Geographic expeditions. And so this is another way of experiencing a guided vacation that is now truly part of the Disney family. The National Geographic land expeditions are really part of the whole Disney destination umbrella. In fact, some of the back office stuff that we see, but you all wouldn't, um, share some people and features with Adventures by Disney.
Good to know.
In fact, back the last 2 years, not this summer, but 2024 and 2023, Adventures by Disney had the private jet around the world vacation. And that was really run by the Nat Geo people on the back end for the most part, because they had the experience with private jet vacations. And so there's a lot of things a lot of synergies that are happening between the two companies, I would say. But there's definitely differences in the vibe and who is the ideal client or the ideal guest on each of these vacations. So we like to say that National Geographic Expeditions is great for somebody that's a curious explorer. Nat Geo is going to be more focused on in-depth exploration. It's going to be more educational, more intellectual, definitely more centered around science, history, conservation type things. So, where Disney has the storytelling aspect, Nat Geo is really about learning. Now, there's many families, including those with children, that this is perfect for. These are not designed specifically for kids, but children are welcome. And each itinerary is going to have a different age limitation. So just like Adventures by Disney, some of them start as low as 4, and some of them have higher age restrictions. National Geographic is the same. There's many that require kids to be at least 5, 8, or even 12, depending on the itinerary. I did a National Geographic expedition. I can't believe it's 2 years ago now. I got to do the Tanzania Great Migration with Nat Geo, and having been on Adventures by Disney multiple times, I just didn't know what to expect. And I will say that they're different, but they're both amazing. Now, ABD has a South Africa itinerary, but they don't have any other itineraries that explore more of Africa. So being able to travel with Nat Geo to Tanzania, for an example, is a great way, again, to kind of know that Disney is behind it all and they have your back, but to do something different. Now, one of the things that was really cool about the Nat Geo trip was that we had a National Geographic expert, photographer, and I forgot her exact credentials, but she had like a PhD in microclimate biology or something like that. So she actually gave some talks during the week about the wildlife, and she had an expertise in hyenas. And like, what an unusual thing! But and hyenas, basically, her theme was hyenas are kind of nice and kind of caring, and they get a bad rap, and we should like them better. And honestly, by the time I heard her and watched her like secret nighttime videos of how she got to film the hyena families and all of that, I was convinced that they could actually be cute and nice at times. Um,
What? My mind is blown. I'm like, the Lion King has been lying to me all these years.
right, right. It gives you a different look at things. And so, I mean, but that's kind of what Nat Geo is about, is it's really getting in depth. Another example on the Tanzania trip was we went to Olbadai Gorge, which is where some of the earliest human remains were found. And the daughter of the archaeologist, the Leahys, so the daughter or granddaughter, now I'm going to get my generations confused, but she is still an archaeologist in Africa, um, that knows all the family history of the events of when these remains were found and how these archaeologists connected with National Geographic to, get the funding and to get their findings published in the magazine for the first time. She has all those stories, and we got to, not just visit that site with many people do, but to visit that site with, direct knowledge of her presentations, telling us the whole story and sitting down next to her for a meal. So those are things that, again, they're more in depth. Not every kid would enjoy getting that in depth, but some kids really would. And so it's just a matter of looking at each of the itineraries and deciding if it's for you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And somebody said that they would, where was the comment? I would feel better about taking my kids out of school for a couple of days, knowing that they would actually get to learn something. How long are these typically?
So these usually are at least a week, 7 nights. So they don't really have the short escapes like Adventures by Disney has a few that are short escapes in Europe. Um, but these are usually 7 nights. Some of them are longer. But yeah, these definitely would qualify as an educational experience for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yes.
there are so many destinations that you can go with National Geographic. I mean, they just really go in depth to a lot more countries. And right now, I'm really just focusing on the land journeys that National Geographic has. And so I focused on a few that, Adventures by Disney may have some overlap with some of the destinations and some places that you can't go with Adventures by Disney. So I mentioned Tanzania and the Great Migration. Can't do that with Adventures by Disney. Can't go on a Disney cruise there. Now, Peru, I actually am going on Adventures by Disney Peru in October. So
Oh,
I'll be sure to
fun.
report back. But Nat Geo has their own itinerary to Peru. And so it would have, a little bit of, a different take because you have a different emphasis on what your experience is going to be like. And then another example that Nat Geo offers is the Camino de Santiago, which is a famous hike throughout
Yes.
Spain. And Adventures by Disney doesn't offer Spain any longer. It did back in the day. But being able to kind of go on this walk through these famous pilgrimage sites in Spain and staying in monasteries and century old places and even hostels. Adventures by Disney would never put you up in a hostel. And Nat Geo usually is a little bit higher end, but for something like this, because of where you're going, you may be going into some really local, authentic places. So there's just so many destinations throughout the world that National Geographic land journeys can take you to. And again, Nat Geo, what gets confusing, and part of the reason I wanted to have this talk tonight is because there's some other companies that have National Geographic and they're listed on National Geographic's website, but they're really not National Geographic.
Ooh, that's good to know.
So they are guided by National Geographic, and by guided, I mean the Nat Geo experts have helped develop the itineraries. They've consulted on developing them, and they have a partnership, but they are not um, directly owned and operated by a Disney run company. And so that's where we'll move on to Lindblad expeditions. So when you see National Geographic ocean expeditions, these cruises that you see that say have Nat Geo on the side, you are really looking at a Lindblad expedition. And
Ooh.
Lindblad has been a family-owned company for a long time. And what's really fascinating about Lindblad is when you think expedition cruising and you think about Antarctica or Galapagos, if you before Adventures by Disney came around, you really didn't think about kids. But Lindblad has family programs on many of their itineraries. And even though there are expeditions on many of their expedition cruises, kids as young as 6 months, babies as young as 6 months are allowed on board. Not all of them. Can't put a 6-month-old onto Antarctica, I don't believe. But on many of them, you can. And so if you're looking for a more expedition style cruise, and that means a smaller ship. That means emphasis on the nature and the wildlife and the more remote environments, with traveling with local experts and biologists and marine biologists and all those things. Lindblad could be a great option, especially if you have kids, to go on one with the family programs, because there'll be other kids on board. The staff will be well trained. They have an explorers and training program, and it is a really unique opportunity. I see, I don't know that this is official, but just what I am observing in terms of the changes in what Adventures by Disney is offering and the increased connection, I would say, between Disney and Lindblad, I would say we're going to see more and more tie-ins. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that is, well, first of all, at our agency owner conference that Disney put on for us in the fall, for earmarked agencies, the authorized Disney vacation planners, we actually had the founder of Lindblad Expeditions came and spoke.
Ooh.
And we now have I'll be honest, some sales incentives with Lindblad. Disney, I don't think owns any part of Lindblad, but there are some connections starting. And so I think that may be in part why we don't see Adventures by Disney offering Antarctica anymore. And there's some question mark about if Galapagos is going to come back with Adventures by Disney. And that's because Lindblad does an amazing job in those destinations. They're family friendly. They've always had, kids as part of their mission, and truly a fantastic product.
And I
So,
know that we're gonna have somebody that's like, "Oh, if it's not run by Disney, then I don't wanna do it, I only trust Disney." But the Adventures by Disney river cruises, those aren't necessarily run by Disney. Those are somebody else's river
so
boat
good
ships.
point. So it's a little different. So Adventures by Disney river cruises are on board AMA waterways. Adventures by Disney basically charters those river ships. All of the staff is on the waterways. The cruise manager is on the waterways, the chefs and all of that, housekeeping, all are AMA. And then Adventures by Disney brings on their adventure guides, um, who are specially trained by Disney. So in this case, as of this time, the Lindblad expeditions do not have Disney adventure guides on board. I will say that Disney and Lindblad are forming a relationship of some kind. I can't specifically say that they're giving them a stamp of approval or anything, but I have a feeling we're going to start seeing more about Lindblad. When you're watching the Nat Geo channel and you're seeing the expedition cruises, you're already seeing Lindblad. Nat Geo has already branded with Lindblad. It's a kind of a co-branding situation. And so I think somehow, because of that relationship with Disney and Nat Geo, it's all kind of starting to connect, if that makes sense. Maybe, I mean, I don't even know all the details of that. And I think some of it is evolving.
That's so interesting. And we have a question from Jimmy asking, how did you choose between which one to do for Peru?
So for me, I really loved the accommodations that Adventures by Disney has in Peru. And for also, honestly, some of it was just the time of year, the timing worked out well. Um, but that's another benefit of Nat Geo versus Adventures by Disney is that there are so many more dates. I mean, we might have some time just to kind of scroll through. There's a gazillion destinations and dates for National Geographic. Um, and whereas Adventures by Disney, for the most part, is summer, spring break and Christmas break a bit, and then kind of a little bit in, May and a little bit in September, October for the adult only. But there's, fewer options then. And so if you're looking for, a lot of the destinations that you can go to with Adventures by Disney, but you need to go at a different time, or maybe you just you want to just compare the itineraries. That's something that we can sit down and do and look at where do they stay? What are the dates? How long are they staying? How much activity is there in each? Because you can be hiking for 10 days or you can be, sitting on a coach for 10 days or somewhere in between. And so, you know, these all differ in terms of the level of activity as well.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Monica asked, are there any accessibility friendly options? I think my in laws would like something like this, but my mother in law's had both knees replaced, and I don't think she could handle all that climbing.
Yeah, I think we definitely can look at that together because depending on the itinerary, there are some destinations that are more accessible than others.
Yeah,
And you know, it's a shame that we know that like certain cities in Europe just really are not great for accessibility. And a lot of times these companies just really can't make enough adjustments um, to make it worth it. But then there are some that can be really, really friendly for somebody that uses a wheelchair or maybe needs just options. So where some people can be more active one day and other people can do something a little quieter. So, we can look at options for that as well.
love that.
So, this slide just shows some of the incredible places that Lindblad goes from the Galapagos to Antarctica. They actually have Alaska, which a lot of people don't realize. They have some really great inside passage Alaska as an option. People think, well, I can't travel with Disney. I want to go to Alaska, but I want to go to Glacier Bay. I want to be able to see things more up close than Disney can give me, but I want something for my family. Lindblad could be a great option. No, you're not going to have, Frozen, the Broadway musical on
Yeah,
board. But this is definitely something that is going to be really, really immersive and unforgettable in a very different way.
that.
They
And
even
so many,
have they even have some river cruising with Lindblad in India. I mean, there's just so many
ooh,
unique destinations. It just goes on and on. It feels like every time I kind of dive in a little further, my mind is blown with all the incredible destinations.
and Tracy is asking, what's the number of people that are on these groups? Is it like Adventures by Disney where it's limited, or is it way more?
Oh no, it would be about the size of Adventures by Disney or smaller, depending on the exact itinerary type that you have picked. So Adventures by Disney usually can get up to, depending, 40 or so people. And I would say Nat Geo is about the same, but it really depends on the itinerary. So some of them may be smaller, like Tanzania can be smaller because they're limited by you're not going to be on a huge bus all the time. You have to be in safari vehicles. You have to be on small airplanes. So it's really going to depend. Of course, a Lindblad expedition cruise is going to be way more than a land. There can be, hundreds of people, but it's not going to be thousands of people like a Disney cruise. So it just really, really depends on each individual itinerary.
And does Nat
It's a great
Geo go to
question.
Singapore?
Ah, really good question. I should have checked that beforehand. I'm going to check it and let you know.
I was gonna say, Valentina, definitely get with Karen after because that,
I
that would
might
be
have to
such a
check
great.
that while we're on the
Yeah,
call so I can announce that, because that
well,
I
it's
actually have a different partnership that I'm working on, and I'm hoping to do maybe another video about this. We're working with another great partner that can provide um, custom itineraries in Singapore for
ooh,
our Disney Cruise Line clients that will be traveling there. So we know there's a lot of people that, they're going all the way there and then they're getting on the Disney Adventure, but they're not going to see anything on the Disney Adventure except the
the
ocean
ship.
and
Yeah.
there's going to be a gazillion things to see on board, but of course they want to experience Singapore and maybe other parts of Asia. So we are working on that to see if we can put together some sample itineraries. I don't know if it would be a guided group option or not, but we are working on some options because we know there's a lot of interest in that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my gosh,
so
yes. Especially as the Disney Cruise Line fleet continues to grow and give more people more options, it just makes sense that, there's other touch points. And if you can provide that for your clients, so all they don't even have to worry about booking flights. Your team can book the flights, you can handle the travel insurance, you can handle the transfers, and they just have to get there and they have a custom itinerary made. I mean, it's so nice having the guesswork taken out of it. I'm just imagining myself trying to do it and having 80,000 tabs open on my browser trying to figure out what to do. So,
right, right.
that would be
And
amazing.
there are so many great options that, I'm not going to pretend that I absolutely know everything about each of these itineraries, but what we do have is incredible relationships with the teams at Adventures by Disney, National Geographic, Lindblad, and we're going to move on to G Adventures shortly. We have really strong partnerships with them. They have provided specialized training for me and my team, and we have all the resources, and we also have the connections if needed to, answer those questions. So, that's what's really, I think, important because we get to know you and your family so we can understand what's super important to you and make sure that we can find you the right fit.
Love that.
So let's see here. Now, this is the next part that's confusing. When you get on the Nat Geo website, you will see National Geographic family journeys. And you're like, wow, Nat Geo has these family trips. Um, and you're like, wait a minute, how does that differ from Adventures by Disney? And it's confusing. And then if you click on it on the link, you will see that it actually takes you over to G Adventures. G Adventures is another guided vacation company that has really, really unique, incredible itineraries throughout the world. What's great about G Adventures is that they are at a much more affordable price point for the most part than Adventures by Disney or National Geographic or Lindblad. They have itineraries that are specific for different age groups, for singles, for 20 somethings, for, all different kinds of kind of interests. And then they have these family journeys. Now they just recently added a more like, I think they call it G Lux. So a more elevated option for those that want something a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more luxurious. But if you really want to focus on the local experience and you're okay with more basic accommodations that are very local, that are authentic, that are not going to be 5 star, you're probably not going to get room service and frette linens. This is not Disney Cruise Line or Adventures by Disney, but if you're okay with that, um, you will have the most incredible immersive experiences with G Adventures. Their mission is really about um, focusing on being responsible tourists. And so that when they come to a destination, they're really relying on ways to enhance the local economy and not take away from the local economy. They have a lot of um, uh, projects to help support the communities in different ways. And so it's something, a trip that you can really, really feel good about. And again, so if you think like, oh, I would love to go to Peru, or I would love to go to, Asia or Europe, but I don't think I can afford Adventures by Disney or National Geographic, looking at these G Adventures are a really, really terrific option. It's a great way, I would say, for young families to start on this journey of exploring the world, and you know that you're in safe hands. They were guided by National Geographic's expertise, but again, it is a separate company from G Adventures is completely separate. There is no Disney connection in any way except the National Geographic kind of branding. But when you book it, it's through a separate independent company that's very well regarded and well respected. It's just a completely different experience. So it's a great additional option. And I wanted to include it because these are linked on the main National Geographic homepage. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people like to do their own research and then they think, oh, it's a National Geographic journey, but it's really kind of not, even
Yeah.
though it's on there. They have this association for marketing basically, but not for the actual operation side.
So interesting. I know that I would definitely make that mistake, just clicking around and thinking it's the same, uh, just the same company. But can you help? Because I know people are going to be overwhelmed with all of the options. So can
Yes.
your team help figure out, like, is G Adventures going to be the best one? Is it Nat Geo? Is it Adventures by Disney? You can kind of
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Absolutely. Of course we can. Like I said, we work with all of these. I also love talking about Talc these days, Tauck. Talc Bridges is the Adventures by Disney counterpart. Their Talc is celebrating 100 years this year. They have been
Oh,
around forever. I think Adventures by Disney really modeled a lot of what they do after Talc Bridges, which is their family-centered, multi-generational kind of branch. But Tauk has a ton of itineraries, guided vacations for adults, and then bridges for families. And so sorting through all these options, depending on where you want to go, when, what's important to you, and of
yeah.
course your budget, this is what we do. This is why we're here, right? This is why you reach
Yeah.
out to a travel professional.
I was gonna say there's just so many options, and especially, if you're here, you probably know a thing or two about Disney cruising, and you have a certain level of service expectations, and just the seamlessness, and having companies, right? Karen and her team have gone on these trips. They've worked with these companies before. It's just one less thing that you have to worry about. And I know that somebody asked the question, or was it Craig was asking, do you feel safe going to other countries? Are the guides background checked?
Oh my goodness, yes. I feel incredibly safe. I mean, everybody has to make their own determination. But first of all, these companies really put safety first. So not only are they background checked, but they are, incredibly well trained and selected because of their expertise. When I was in Tanzania with National Geographic, I learned a lot about how th- how hard how much the guides have to learn in order to become a safari guide. It is not like take an online webinar and pass a test. I mean, it
Yeah.
is highly selective.
Yes.
Hundreds or thousands of people try to apply and get in, for only a handful being selected to work for different companies and undergo their training. And National Geographic, Adventures by Disney, G Adventures, and then Lindblad, when they're in the different ports, they all really, really vet the companies and the local tour guides that they're working with. And safety is paramount. When you do an Adventures by Disney uh, Egypt trip, for example, one of our clients, had recently returned and talked about the security detail that they had with them. And, when you're traveling in Egypt, you want that. Now, if there was something, a reason, a change in the world, these companies would make adjustments or cancel if needed, because they're all really trusted to do the right thing. But
Absolutely.
and they're not going to go places that are, don't have enough infrastructure to support a comfortable trip. Like I said, G Adventures may not be luxurious, but it's still going to be safe and clean and comfortable, right?
Yeah. There's these companies have a reputation to uphold and they want you to have a good time so that you tell your family and friends and keep coming back. So I would not hesitate to go on any if you're just Googling random tour companies, I don't know about that. When you have a 100-year legacy behind you, that says something. People are coming back over 100 years just
Absolutely.
by
And
that.
National Geographic is, I think they've been around 100 years. I don't know if they've been offering, how long they've been offering their expeditions. That's probably something I should know. But, you know, these companies have strong, strong reputations, and it's really important. And, as I said at the beginning, because we're here talking to the DCL community, we're not just talking to anybody. I mean, if you don't know what the DCL community is and you happen to be listening to this
Yeah.
webinar, this recording,
Welcome.
welcome. And that's fantastic. But we're really speaking to Disney Cruise Line fans. And what you should know is that we speak your language. Right?
Yes.
We understand what Disney Cruise Line fans expect, and we can help you kind of understand how the travel experience will be different, because we know that a lot of our clients that are looking at these tours may have never left the country except to go maybe on a Disney cruise in the Caribbean, for example. So they've never flown overseas to Europe. They don't have a passport. And we are here to help you pick the right match, to help you understand the entire process, from making sure your passport is correct, getting your flights, having your travel insurance, what's going to happen when you land, all of that. And so, from the experienced traveler that is just ready to have something really curated and done for them and hassle free, to somebody that's like never traveled overseas before, these are all great options.
Karen and her team are so organized, it'll blow your mind. So let them help you with this instead of you stressing over it. But
Yes. So this
love hearing
this
about more
last
family options.
This last slide just has a few of the options from G Adventures that are unique. Again, there's some overlap between all these companies, but I thought it was really interesting that the G Adventures Family Journeys has a Yucatan in Mexico itinerary. So you can really, it's not just going to Mexico for a beach vacation, it's going to Merida all the way to Cozumel to experience the ancient Mayan ruins and the coast and cenotes, all of that. Or going to Belize to really immerse yourself in, the wildlife there and the coral reefs. And of course, they have Morocco, Spain, Africa, Iceland, and I should have put dot 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 and more. There's a bunch of family journeys with G Adventures, and so really, really, great options close to home if you wanted to do the Grand Canyon, or if you want to go, all the way to Africa. So many options to consider. Um, Disney can't take us to all these places yet, so we have to sometimes look beyond.
Yes.
Um, so, when we talk about working with My Path Unwinding Travel, I've mentioned it before, but we are authorized Disney vacation planners. We work a lot with Disney, so that means that we have that strong relationship with Adventures by Disney, with National Geographic, and now with Lindblad. We're specialists with Nat Geo, we're specialists with G Adventures. We also have some exclusive discounts. There's some G Adventures discounts that are available only to certain travel agencies. We have discounts on the agency side for some of these destinations. I'm going to be honest; these are not, you know, budget vacations for the most part. Even a more budget friendly option like G Adventures is still can be a costly adventure, right? But we will help you get the most value out of it so that you can have your planning process hassle free from, start to finish.
So true. I love that so much because I know I'm hearing it more and more. People love Disney. They love traveling with Disney, but how many times do they want to go see Cozumel, for a couple hours? How many times do you want to go to Jamaica for a couple hours? It's just having something new to experience. There's so much to see around the world, and this is such a great way to do it. And I'm glad you have your Facebook group up. Someone was asking, do these where was it? Where was it? Where was it? Oh, do these have Facebook groups like a Disney cruise? I love getting to know people before we sail. Good for my kids too.
Um, it depends. So it's harder to find Facebook groups for each of the individual departures because there's so many of them and there's just such a small group, right? So there could be 40 people going, whereas on a Disney cruise, there could be 4,000. We have our Facebook group. It started as an Adventures by Disney group, and we've expanded it to include National Geographic and Tauc because I'm huge fans and I want everybody to have all the options available to them. And we do have some connections we have an Adventures by Disney focused river cruise group that we run. And within that is a great way to find your specific river cruise departure. For Talc and Nat Geo, to be honest, I have not seen specific Facebook groups, like for this date. Sometimes you might see them like, just more general, like Greece or Italy or something like that. But of course, we love connecting on social media and helping our clients connect. So if we can do anything to help you connect with other guests, we will.
Love that so much. And somebody is asking about your favorite that you've done so far.
Oh,
I know,
I
loaded
always
question.
I always like to say that my husband taught me this, that my favorite is the next one. And
Love
so
it.
the next one for me, I mentioned Peru with Adventures by Disney, but actually before that, we are doing a Tauc Rendezvous on the Seine river cruise. So
Ooh.
I'm going to say that one of those two, since those are our next, will be our favorites.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm also totally stealing that response from your husband. So thank him for that for me.
Exactly. There you go. Like,
Uh,
what's your favorite Disney cruise? It's the one I'm going on next,
yes, yes.
whatever
Just
that
so
is.
yes.
Um, it's
Oh, this
really
is
hard to pick because you make so many unique memories. Um, I will have to say that Tanzania with National Geographic was incredibly special. Um, I've heard over and over again before I left, people said, Africa changes you. And a few days in, I was like, do I really feel changed? No, I don't. But then a couple more days in, really experiencing the stillness of the drives that we went out on in the Ngorongoro crater and in the Serengeti, where you're just so still and waiting and watching and observing and just feeling your place. That was incredible and, unlike anything else I've ever experienced. So I would say Tanzania is very, very high in my list.
oh my gosh, I was gonna say I have some family who have done similar trips and they rave about it. I mean, getting to see an elephant in real life, they go just all the greener. I mean, there's
Yes, I'm
so
kind of
much
obsessed with
beauty.
elephants after that trip and seeing the
Yes,
elephant families and the way, that the like families stick together and just yeah,
elephants and
it's really
hyenas.
cool.
Who knew?
Exactly. I came away from that appreciating hyenas and adoring elephants.
Oh,
So,
I love
um,
it. Well,
yeah,
if anyone out there is ready to plan their vacation, whether you want to spend your time off on land doing one of these adventures or maybe doing something on the water, whether it's a river cruise, a Disney cruise, there are so many options for travel. And instead of driving yourself crazy trying to think about which one's best for you, reach out to Karen and her team. Just set up an intro call and let them get to know you, what your family likes, what you're interested
exactly.
in. Are you a beach bum like me, or do you want to go and explore? There's no right version of a vacation. It's whatever you want. And again, their planning services are free for you to utilize. That is the link to their page up on the DCL community site. And I'll get this in the comments for everybody as well. But Karen, thank you so, so much for hanging out with us. This was such a blast.
Thank you again, everybody. Thanks, Rebecca. See you
Yes, we will
soon.
see all y'all on board real soon. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.